Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our program, our course on the Nectar of Instruction, which is a verse-by-verse study class. Today we will be discussing about the text number 5, verse number 5 of this book. And in total, this is our 13th class so far. And today's topic would be associating properly with 3 levels of devotees. And you can see here, I have shown a small graphic on the slide. A neophyte level, at intermediate level, and an advanced level. So we will be discussing about various levels of devotees, and depending upon their level, we will be discussing the behavior or our mode of association, or the way we associate with these devotees appropriately. And again, this is a topic on association, going a little in depth about association. And we will be covering this topic in 2 parts. This is the first part of the class. Okay, may I request now Her Grace Sita Sharma Mataji from Kuala Lumpur to kindly help me in recitation of the Mangala Charan prayers.
Okay, Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanamirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmiletam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurube Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yani Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Sri Visakha Padamsa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopi Sagopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prasabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatruvhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Okay, Mataji, can you also read the translation of the Mangala Charan?
Sure, Prabhuji. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with the elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunatha Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their association, Sri Lalita and Vishakha. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distress and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respect to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Varsabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava devotee of the Lord, who can fulfill the the desire of everyone, just like the desire tree, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasa, and all others in line of devotion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome, Prabhu.
Okay, so let us do the recap of the previous class, which was on text 4, 6 loving exchanges. The recap was expected to be done by Vasudevan Prabhu, but for some reason, Prabhuji is very busy at the moment and will not be able to attend the class also. And he sent me his excuses that he wouldn't be able to do it. I thought that let me once again do the recap. So the previous class was about the 6 loving exchanges, and we had 2 classes on this topic. So we have already explained you about these 6 loving exchanges: Dadati Pratigrahanati, Guhyam Akhyati, and Bhunkte Bhojiyate. In the previous class, we actually went into more detail about these 6 loving exchanges, and the information that we had shared in the previous class was uh, actually not mentioned in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. So this is something which is, you can say, a bit more explanation about the same 6 themes, just to give you a bit much more detailed understanding of these 6 principles. So first of all, we would like to discuss about the Dadati Pratigrahanati, and we discussed Dadati Pratigrahanati actually is giving gifts and receiving gifts in return. So exchanging gifts in the other in other words. So there were several ideas that we discussed. We discussed first of all that the most important aspect in giving and receiving gifts is actually the intent, and we explained that basis of Bhagavad Gita, that when Lord Krishna says that I accept a flower, a leaf, a water, a fruit, if given with devotion. The same thing is there. The most important aspect is the intent, and then we extended that concept further, that if intent is good, then content will already be good. Content will, people will actually like to make the content also good. So there were 2 aspects, intent and content, and that's how we discussed it. Also, we extended this discussion to that when we give some gifts to someone, then we have to take into account the likes and dislikes of the person who is actually receiving the gift. And different people like different type of gift based upon their different values they might have, different liking they have. And we discussed about tangible gift, intangible gift. Tangible gift would be books, uh, flowers. Intangible gift could be a thank you note, a word of appreciation, like that. Also, we discussed about importance of certain days when the gifts are given. So sometimes devotees, because of their spiritual and philosophical inclination, they might sometime downplay the relevance of these days, like for example birthdays, marriage anniversaries. But we try to emphasize that on these days people's heart are softer, and when done properly, uh, a small gesture of affection, giving gifts, etc., can go a long way in making good relationships and making strong relationships. And so that we should be a little bit more concerned, and say we should take this fact into account, that these days we should not miss birthdays and anniversaries. Also, we discussed about emotional bank account. We should keep our emotional bank account positive. Like in a bank account, we have credits and debits. Similarly, when we show behavior of sympathy, when we show good behavior, politeness, and all those good virtues, in our behavior that keep the relationship bank account on a positive side, but when we are more critical, more harsh, more rude to others, that is sometimes when we uh, withdraw from the emotional bank account. So we should try to keep our emotional bank account positive, and that's how we can keep the relationships warm and healthy. Then coming to the principle of bhunkte bhojyate. Bhunkte means uh, eating, and bhojyate means actually feeding. Bhunkte means offering prasad, bhojyate means receiving prasad or receiving food. And we further elaborated these principle of bhunkte bhojyate with the help of two stories. Uh, uh, One with the help of the story by of Advait Acharya inviting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Here we saw that how in this story how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being a sannyasi, was very very conservative and reluctant to accept uh, uh, householder Advaita Acharya's invitation. And similarly, we saw how Nityananda Prabhu showed a lot of intimacy with Advaita Acharya by jokingly saying that uh, the amount of food you are offering to me is actually very less. This will only fill half of my tummy. Actually, I have been fasting for 3 days. I can eat much more. So, although he was saying it jokingly, but it was an expression of his affection towards Advaita Acharya. So we can see how the relationship is growing with this kind of invitation. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's uh, uh, extending a feast on the occasion of the departure of Haridas Thakur, who is another exalted Vaishnava. When organized a feast, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually was so considerate and so giving personal attention to everyone, that you like this particular item, you should take this particular item, you like that item, you should take that item, like that. So personal attention was one of the hallmark of the story, with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu extending this feast on the occasion of Haridas Thakur's departure. Also, we explained that how this principle of Bhunkte Bhojete is implemented in ISKCON's Sunday Feast Festival. So these Sunday Feast Festival have been one of these innovations of or uh, inventions of Srila Prabhupada when he started ISKCON in USA. There he would organize Sunday Feast Festival every Sunday. He would cook for the devotees personally. He would offer and serve this prasad to the devotees personally. And that's where devotees became very close to Srila Prabhupada, and also Srila Prabhupada could transfer the message of Krishna consciousness very nicely. So on the same lines, every Sunday you would go, if you go to a ISKCON temple, there will be a Sunday feast organized, and this feast would be cooked by devotees, and it would be for the devotees. So some devotees would cook the feast, other devotees would actually attend the Bhagavatam class, and after the class is over, the feast is served to the whole congregation after offering this food or this cooked food to the Lord. So by this way, devotees, when they cook out of love for other devotees, and when it is offered to the Supreme Lord Krishna, there is a mercy aspect of Lord Krishna in that food. So by such exercise, the devotees can actually experience both the mercy of the Lord as well as the love of the other devotees. So Guhyam Akhyati principle is sharing our heart in confidence and listening to others' mind in confidence. So that is Guhyam Akhyati. And we discuss this principle at three levels. One is at the level of Krishna Katha, second at the level of our own devotional service, whatever services we are doing, and the third is the at the level of sharing our weaknesses of our heart. So Krishna Katha level is the topmost level, where devotees who are advanced, they actually discuss Krishna Katha in a very relishing way. They would discuss the Katha in a way and finer points of the Krishna Katha. That is how they would express their heart. And when there are question and answer, they would listen to the hearts, what is there in the heart of other devotees. And we saw that pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu along with Rup Goswami, where Rup Goswami had written a Sanskrit verse which he shared with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and other devotees, and devotees actually relished that kind of a discussion very much. Similarly, the second level where the Guhyamakhyati principle acts is at the level where devotees share uh, how they are doing their devotional service with other devotees. And we explained that with the help of example of the story of Queen Draupadi sharing the way she would serve her husbands to with Queen Satyabhama. So Satyabhama is wife of Lord Krishna, and Draupadi is a wife of Pandavas. So Satyabhama inquires from Draupadi, how come you serve your husband so nicely? What is the secret that your husbands are so much under your uh, shower so much affection to you and so on. So Queen Draupadi shares that she is doing a lot of nice services for her husband, and that is how their husbands are very much affectionate towards her. So like that, exchanging the details of one services with the other devotees. And the third one is the weakness. So weakness is something like the anarthas. There are anarthas in the heart of the living entities. And when we are doing our devotional activity, when we are performing our bhakti, we alone cannot fight our own anarthas. Sometimes we need help, and we need help to fight our own inner battles, our own inner weaknesses. Like in Gita, Arjuna is caught up in such a situation. So he had this affection towards his own family members, which was coming in the way of discharging his duty towards the society, and discharging his duty towards Supreme Lord Krishna also, because it was Krishna's will that Arjuna should fight that battle. So, like that, we also face many of these weaknesses within our heart to fight our own inner battles. And we explained that how we should do this Guhyam Akhyati when we are sharing our own weaknesses. We should be sharing these type of details with devotees who are with whom we are very much intimate, who are mature enough to understand our problem, and who are actually uh, who will not spread these details with others. So like that, we should share our weaknesses with devotees. Then we also discussed about the negative injunctions of six loving exchanges. Negative injunction would mean the positive injunction would mean that with whom we should do these six loving exchanges. We should do it with the devotees. Negative injunction would mean that with whom we should not be doing these six loving exchanges. And that's where we explain to you that we should not do that kind of association with those kind of people who are non-devotees. And we specifically warned about Mayavadis and atheists. So Mayavadis, as we have already discussed in the previous class, so I will not elaborate on that. Uh, so what we meant here was that we should not uh, become too closely related or too closely attached by these people, these kind of people, by offering them these six loving exchanges. Dadati pratigranati, bhungte bhojyate, and guhyam akhyat. And at the same time, we also clarified that when we say that we should not associate with these people in these six loving ways, we explain to you that uh, there are at times that we may have to associate with these people. So we should clearly differentiate between uh, associating with such people in an intelligent way and associating this with these people in a fanatical way. So fanatical would be something like that. If we see somebody who is of an atheist viewpoint, we actually shut our doors, we start behaving rudely, or we start running away from them. Or similarly with Mayavadis, so we explain to them that that is something like which is known as fanatical association. Intelligent association would be that we understand that philosophically we are different, and the Mayavad philosophy is going to act or could be detrimental to our devotional growth, and we should then associate with them in an intelligent way. Intelligent way association would mean that we should associate with them in circumstances where we are coming together for a common good of the preaching of the Vedic principles of the Sanatan Dharma. And we should also differentiate between Mayavadis who are strict Mayavadis and people who are under Mayavad influence. So like that, we should differentiate in those circumstances. And last, we clarified a little bit on the Dharti principle, which has been mentioned in Srila Prabhupada's purport. In Srila Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada has mentioned that we should give 50% of our wealth in charity to for Krishna conscious purposes. 25% we should give it to our relatives, and 25% we should keep it for our own personal emergencies. So here we clarified that 50% giving for Krishna conscious purpose. This kind of a statement by Srila Prabhupada might sound too much to some people, uh, but here we try to clarify that this is the ideal that has been set by Srila Prabhupada for for his disciples, for his followers. But we are may not be at that level right now. So we should understand and differentiate between the goal and where our actual situation is. So goal is something which we want to achieve, uh, and our actual situation is where we are actually right now. So that is where we should read such statements by Srila Prabhupada and not take them very in a very strict manner that whatever we are earning we should give it 50% for Krishna conscious purposes. Certainly, as our renunciation increases, we would like to give more and more for such activities. At the same time, we in the end we discuss that some people sometimes say that the charity they will give when they will be very at a later stage when they will have sufficient money or sufficient funds. But there we discuss that charity is not only an action but also an attitude. So we should rather develop an attitude of giving rather than considering that how much we are giving and not give anything in our devotional life. So charity is not only an action but also an attitude, and we should cultivate. If we have less, we should try to give less, but try to cultivate that principle of giving. That is what we explained. So with that recap, we come back to our now new class, new topic, and that topic is about text number 5. And just to give you where we are right now, so we are here right now at text number 5, which is adopt things which are favorable to bhakti. So the major high level theme is adopt things favorable to bhakti. And in text number 5, the theme discusses appropriately respect three type of devotees. So in text number 2 and text number 3, we understood about the principle of association. We should avoid bad association and we should accept good association. And then in text number 4, we discussed general reciprocation with devotees at 6 levels. And now in text number 5, what we are doing is we are now going a bit deeper into this topic. We are now discussing how we should appropriately respect three type of devotees. So in this particular text, we will talk primarily about three type of devotees and what kind of respect we should offer to each of these type of devotees. So this is the verse number 5 from Nectar of Instruction, and you will notice that this particular verse is a little bit longer in terms of that each line of this verse is somewhat longer compared to the previous verses that we have discussed. And here we will briefly discuss about uh, the chanda, a little bit of a vyakaran or a little bit of a grammar of Sanskrit, the way these various verses are composed. So here you would see that uh, this particular verse is known as or is composed in a chanda which is known as Vasanta Tilaka. So in this Vasanta Tilaka chanda, there are 14 syllables in each line compared to the previous chanda which is in Anushtup. like in most of the Bhagavad Gita is written in Anushtup Chand. So in Anushtup Chand, there are only 8 syllables in one line, and you can see here we have the whole verse is divided into 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in Vasanta Tilaka verse, you can count 14 syllables. Now, because you can provide more syllables in this kind of verse, you can actually include much more information in this verse, in this chanda, in this meter. And the way it is sung is similar way like we would sing Brahma Samhita prayers. So it is sung in a very similar way. So I will try to sing it, uh, and you can notice the difference that I have been singing the previous type of verses and the way this one would be sung. So it will be recited like this. Krishneti yasya giritam manasandriyeta दीक्षस्ति चेत् प्रणतभिश्च भजन्तमीशम् शुश्रूषया भजन विज्ञम् अनन्यमन्या निन्दादिशून्य हृदम् ईप्सिता संगलब्ध्या. So like that, it is sung in a similar meter like you would hear Brahma Samhita prayers if you go to ISKCON programs, or you may Google how to sing Brahma Samhita prayers. So you can see it is sung in the same way. Now coming to the meaning and explanation of this verse. So let us focus first of all on the first line. Krishneti yasya giritam manasa driyeta. Krishneti. Krishneti means those things which are related with Lord Krishna. And here Srila Prabhupada has translated as Krishna's holy name. So Krishneti yasya giritam manasa driyeta. Yasya giritam. Krishneti yasya giritam. Giri actually means uh, words and or speech. So a person who is actually reciting Lord Krishna's name or speaking about Lord Krishna by his words, by his speech, uh, for such a person, one should offer manasa driyeta, adriyeta. Adriyeta word you can recognize from the Hindi word adar. Manasa, manasa means in the mind, adar means respect. So Krishneti yasya giritam manasa driyeta. So a person who is having Lord Krishna's name on his words, in his speech, so to such a person, one should offer respect in the mind. So one should offer respect in the mind. Mentally honor the Kanishtha devotee who chants Krishna's holy name. So we will come to this theme of Kanishtha, Madhyama, and Uttama a little bit later. But this first line actually means uh, how we should deal with the devotee at the most basic level. Hmm? This is the first line. Krishneti yasya giritam manasa driyeta. Then going a little bit higher, second line is about the devotee who is one level higher than the devotee who has been explained in the first line. So in the first line, the symptom explained is the devotee who is having Lord Krishna in his words, in his speech. Then the second level is Dikshasti Chet Pranat Bhish Cha Bhajantam Isham. Now, what are the characteristics mentioned in the second line? So, the second line is mainly talking about Dikshasti and Bhajantam Isham. Bhajantam Isham means engaging in the bhajan of the Lord, engaging in the bhajan of the Isham. Isham means controller. Controller is another word which is being used for the Supreme Lord, for God. So, Dikshasti means this person has taken Diksha from a spiritual master, from a spiritual teacher. So he has taken initiation, he has taken Diksha, spiritual initiation, and this person is now also engaged seriously in the Bhajantam Isham. Bhajantam Isham, as I said, is the bhajan of the Lord, in the devotional service of the Lord. Now, with such a devotee, what should be the behavior? The behavior should be Chet Pranati Bhish. Pranati Bhish. Pranati means, Pranati Bhi means offering obeisances, offering Dandavat Pranams. Like you would see, if you visit an ISKCON center, if you see the dealings between the two Vaishnavas, you would see that when they would greet each other, they would not simply, sometimes they would see Hare Krishna, but many times they will offer Dandavat Pranams by lying down on the ground and paying that kind of a Dandavat Pranams. So, to such a devotee who has taken Diksha and who is also engaged seriously in the devotional service of the Lord, one should not only offer respects in the mind, but also with the body, but also express that respect uh, by offering pranams, by offering uh, some kind of dandavat pranam or offering obeisances. Then the last two lines is actually about the characteristics and the uh, kind of behavior one should show towards someone who is at the topmost level. So topmost level devotee is known as Uttama devotee, and the medium one is known as Madhyama devotee, Madhyamadhikari. So to the Uttama devotee, how one should uh, behave? First of all, before knowing who is the Uttama devotee, what are the characteristics of the Uttama devotee, let us see. It is being mentioned Shushrushraya, Bhajana Vigyam, Ananyam, and Anya Nindadi Shunya Hridam. So here you focus on this compound words Bhajana Vigyam Ananyam. Hmm? Bhajana Vigyam Ananyam. So there are three words here. The first word is Bhajana Vigyam. Bhajana Vigyam means he is advanced in devotional service. Bhajana Vigyam. Vigyam means he knows the nitty gritty details of the bhajan. How to do the bhajan. He is actually Vigyam. Vigyam means he is very much clear. He not only understands the theoretical meaning of that purport of the spiritual text, but he also or she also understands the detail, or he has also realized. So it is like bhajana vigyam. And then ananyam means he is undeviated, he is focused, he is very much focused, he has no other business. Bhajana vigyam ananyam. And then anya nindadi shunya hridam. Anya nindadi shunya hridam. So these four words are there. Anya nindadi shunya hridam. So ninda means criticizing or blaspheming, criticizing, talking ill about. Huh? So this person is nindadi shunya, anya nindadi shunya. He is freed from the propensity to criticize. Anya nindadi shunya. And hridam. Hridam means from the heart. So what it means is, sometimes we see that people are nindadi shunya, anya nindadi shunya, and that can mean two things. Maybe they are nindadi shunya only externally. They might have something to criticize in their heart, but they are not bringing out on their lips. So that would mean anya nindadi shunya. uh, He doesn't do any ninda. Externally, he doesn't do any ninda. Sometimes in the offices, when we are in front of our boss, in our heart, we might be thinking that such a rascal, such a nonsense person. But because he's our boss, we might be thinking, or we might be behaving in a way, no, sir, you are doing very nice. You are doing it very properly. This is the best way somebody can behave, like that. So externally, we might be showing no ninda, but internally, we might be full of ninda. But this person who is actually the topmost devotee, he is not only nindadi shunya from his external behavior, from his speech, but also nindadi shunya very naturally within his heart also. So anya nindadi shunya hridam. uh, So with such a devotee who is bhajana vigyam ananyam, bhajana vigyam means who is very much self-realized, who understands the nitty-gritty details of the Shastra, who is Ananyam means who is undeviated, which is very much focused, and who is freed from propensity to criticize, not only from the external lips but also within the heart. huh? For such a devotee, one should desire ipsita. One should desire what? One should desire. One should desire to do shushrushaya. Shushrushaya. So shushrushaya word is a Sanskrit word, but in Hindi also it has parallel. So like in Hindi we called seva shushrusha, isn't it? Seva shushrusha means serving, performing some seva, some service to someone. So shushrusha means one should faithfully serve, and ipsita sangalabdhya, and one should really desire. One should really desire to sangalabdhya, uh, to have association with such a devotee. Uh, so associate with sangalabdhya, honor and faithfully serve, shushushaya, and uttama devotee, a devotee who is very advanced. And what are the characteristics of this uttama devotee? Who is undeviated in bhakti and who is freed from the propensity to criticize. So you can see here three level of devotees: uh, Kanishtha level, Madhyama level, and the Uttama level. Each of these devotees, their characteristics have been described. Kanishtha devotee's characteristic is at least he is speaking something about Krishna. The Madhyama level devotee is about, he's not only speaking about Krishna, but he's also has gone a little bit higher. He has taken Diksha, he has accepted a spiritual master. He's following the rules and regulations set by the spiritual master, but also he is seriously engaged in performing his bhajan towards the Lord. Then a further advanced devotee is someone who is uh, bhajan vigyam, who is very much intricately understanding about uh, the details of the scripture, the conclusion of the scriptures, who is undeviated and who has no propensity to criticize someone else. So to such a devotee, one should uh, so with a devotee who is kanishtha, one should offer respect in the mind, and the devotee who is madhyama, one should offer obeisances, and one who is actually uttama, who is very senior and who is very much advanced, one should perform some uh, service, and one should also have a very hankering, one should have a great desire to associate with such a devotee. So you can see how beautifully in a verse in the Vasant Tilaka Chand, Srila Rup Goswami has summarized the kind of behavior one should extend towards different type of devotees at different levels. So some of the important words, although we have done in detail, Giri means in words or speech, Pranati Bhi by offering obeisances, Shushrushaya by practical service, and Ipsita means develop desire. So like that, there are four words I felt were a little bit might be difficult for you to understand. So have I isolated them for discussion here. Uh, so Srila Prabhupada has translated this verse like this: one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone a spiritual initiation known as Diksha and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So that is how Srila Prabhupada has translated these words. And uh, Prabhupada has given a very long purport to this verse. So uh, we have, uh, like in every other class, we have kind of segregated different themes from Srila Prabhupada's purport, and you would find that these themes are not in the order that Srila Prabhupada has written the purport, but we have reorganized these themes to give them a little bit more flow, like discussing a little introduction first, and then maybe discussing little details first, and then maybe going in the end discussing some finer points of the purport. So like that, there are 5 different themes for this particular text, the purport written by Srila Prabhupada. So first of all, we will discuss role of faith in gradations of Vaishnavas. So we have seen that we have divided or we have graded the Vaishnavas in 3 categories: Kanishtha, Madhyama, and Uttama. So on what criteria we have made that gradation? So you will see that that gradation has been made on the basis of faith. Uh, So as our faith increases, we advance in our spiritual life. And faith in Hindi or in Sanskrit is known as Shraddha. So as our Shraddha deepens, as our Shraddha in our spiritual life towards the process of devotional service, towards Lord Krishna deepens step by step, the gradation actually change. We advance from Kanishtha to Madhyama to Uttama level. And then we will in particular discuss about who is Kanishtha Adhikari, who is a Madhyama Adhikari, and who is a Uttama Adhikari. So in this particular verse, we have understood only in a little in some high level that Kanishtha is someone who is actually speaking about Lord Krishna. Madhyama is someone who is not only speaking but also have taken initiation and who is also engaged seriously in devotional service. Uttama, we went even further about who is much more engaged now into the process of devotional service, who understand the purport of the scripture much more detailed, and who is also devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So many of these themes we will discuss in much more detail, relating with several examples and so on. And then in the end, we will summarize some of these themes that have been mentioned in the purport by Srila Prabhupada by checking what are different type of Vaishnavas. So here Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama is there, but there are several other terminologies also given there. So we will focus a little bit more also in that particular section. And then there has been a mention about Diksha when it is talking about Madhyamadhikari. So we will also elaborate a little bit on what does Diksha means and what does accepting a Diksha from a Guru actually means in the longer term. So starting our discussion first of all with the theme of role of faith in gradations of Vaishnavas. Hmm? So Shraddha can be segregated into particular categories. I would not say categories actually, but I would classify Shraddha in uh, at the level how does Shraddha act when a person comes into spiritual life, and what is the role of Shraddha uh, in advancing in spiritual life. So Shraddha, first of all, in the beginning of spiritual life, what does the role Shraddha plays? Shraddha actually uh, make us come closer or introduces ourselves to spiritual life. That is the first role that Shraddha plays. And that does not mean that when we have Shraddha and when we start our spiritual life, the Shraddha element actually reduces, or Shraddha element has no role to play. Shraddha actually continues to play our role in our spiritual life throughout the end of our spiritual life. And what role does it play? It helps us advance in spiritual life gradually and uh, towards the higher level of advancement. So Shraddha is there in the beginning, but it becomes the basis of spiritual advancement when we continue to hold that Shraddha in the longer term. So that is what role of Shraddha is there. And where do we know that? This is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrit. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, how does this word Shraddha has been described? Shraddha actually means firm faith or full confidence. We discussed this verse also in our previous verse where we had discussed about Nishchaya. Utsa dhairyat nishchayat tat tat karma pravartanat. So that's where we also discussed about Shraddha. So here we will understand Shraddha in a little different way. So as I mentioned to you, uh, advancement of spiritual life. So Shraddha in the beginning of spiritual life is little bit softer, but Shraddha in the advanced stage of spiritual life becomes much more stronger. So this verse talks about Shraddha when we are in the advanced stage of spiritual life. So what it says, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sudhrada Nishchaya Krishne Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Kritahaya. So it is said, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sudhrada Nishchaya. So Shraddha is confidence and firm faith that Krishna Bhakti Kaile, by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, that is, if we do bhakti of Lord Krishna, Sarva Karma Krita Hai, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. So this is the definition of Shraddha. Now, in the beginning of spiritual life, this definition of Shraddha is not very much there. For example, in the beginning of spiritual life, we might have some faith, some Shraddha, that if we come to spiritual life, we will get peace of mind, we will become a little bit more happier, we will become a little bit more mature, our life will become much more simpler, like that. So that kind of thought might be there in the beginning of spiritual life. But as we continue to progress in our spiritual life, that Shraddha actually continues to intensify. That is what we are saying, advancement of spiritual life. And in the advancement of spiritual life, the Shraddha takes a much more stronger dimension. And what is that dimension? That dimension is that we have that confidence and we have our firm faith, unshakable faith, that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. All subsidiary activities means whatever duties we might have towards society, towards family, towards our employer, towards nature, whatever, the at the advanced level of devotional life, the faith becomes very very strong, that simply by serving Lord Krishna faithfully, uh, all our other aspects of our life, all our duties are will automatically be taken care. So that is the more advanced level of definition of Shraddha. Now, uh, Shraddha can now also be explained in terms of our uh, confidence in the word of scriptures. So, faithful devotee accepts Lord Krishna's words in totality, without interpretation, and an example we can see in Bhagavad Gita 10.14. What does accepting Krishna's words in totality would mean? Accepting Krishna's words in totality would mean that when we read Srimad Bhagavad Gita, sometimes we tend to land up in this kind of mood or in this kind of behavior, that this part of Bhagavad Gita actually is more palatable. We can perform these kind of instructions as given by Lord Krishna much more easily. So we accept this much Bhagavad Gita, but later on, for example, like in chapter number 18, verse number 66, where Lord Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam braj. Uh, Abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me. Now, when we read that kind of verse, we say that no, that is actually too much. We should not accept that. That is something which is asking for full surrender. Now, who does full surrender? Actually, that is not very practical. That might have been the case in the previous ages, but not in this age. That is not the situation. So, when a devotee is faithful, when a devotee is fully Shraddhavan, then he accepts Lord Krishna's words in totality. Like for example, you would see that there is a controversy on hijab going on in the country these days, and a counter argument people are giving to people who are asking for hijab as their right, saying that it is written in Sharia, in our Islamic Sharia law, it is mentioned we should uh, exercise this wearing of hijab. Then the counter argument people are giving is that if you are accepting Sharia for wearing hijab, then why don't you accept Sharia where it is also written that when somebody steals, then their hand should also be cut? You are accepting only that part of Sharia which is suited to you to make some controversy, but you are not accepting those part of your scriptures where actually that goes contrary to your interests. Uh, So that is something which is to explain you what does it mean in totality. It is not a matter of convenience; it is a matter of shraddha. So people who are having much more advanced shraddha, they would accept Lord's words in totality. They would, and when they would accept Lord's word in totality, they would abstain from interpreting. uh, They would not interpret, they would not concoct, they would not destroy or deform the meaning of the words by the Lord. And an example we can see in Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna, after hearing Bhagavad Gita's message from Lord Krishna, he says that now sarvam etam ritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava. Oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Sarvam etad ritam manye. Sarvam etad, whatever you have told to me, ritam manye, I accept that as truth. हाँ, जो भी आपने मुझसे कहा है, I accept completely as truth. So, so our faith also is like that. When we initially come to spiritual life, our faith is softer and doesn't allow us to accept everything that Lord Krishna has told in the scriptures. And as our faith goes on increasing, as our realization goes on increasing, we start to accept gradually and slowly more and more whatever is written there in the scriptures without any interpretation. So that particular mood is also reflected in this verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, that as our Shraddha increases, our faith also increases. And that is actually the basis of gradation of various type of Vaishnavas. And here Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Shraddhavan jan hai bhakti adhikari, uttama madhyama kanishta, Shraddha anusari. So here you can see Shraddha Anusari. So as our Shraddha increases, and uh, so we our gradation as a Vaishnava also increases. So Shraddhavan Jan Hai Bhakti Adhikari. So who is the Adhikari of Bhakti? Who is eligible to perform Bhakti? One who has Shraddha. Even little Shraddha, he can perform Bhakti. But gradation of various type of devotees is actually according to their shraddha. As their shraddha intensifies, similarly the Vaishnava also becomes from uh, a third level Vaishnava to the second level Vaishnava to the first class Vaishnava. So first class Vaishnava is Uttama, second level category Vaishnava is Madhyama, and the last level category or the third level category Vaishnava is Kanistha. According to one's faith, one is classified as topmost, an intermediate, or an inferior devotee. So there is another criteria for grading Vaishnavas, and if you read scriptures, you will find at different places, different ways, this theme of Kanistha, Madhyama, Uttama actually has been mentioned. And uh, if you see here, the three gradations of Vaishnavas have been mentioned as Kanistha, Madhyama, and Uttama. So Kanistha has been mentioned as one who chants the Harinam only once. Now, so if somebody asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who do you think has we can identify as Vaishnava? So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his mercy, magnanimity, says that a person who has chanted Krishna's holy name only once, you can consider that person as a Vaishnava, and you can offer your respects in mind to such a person. Then Madhyama, who chants the Harinam, who chants the holy name of the Lord constantly, who regularly chants, who actually makes it a point to chant holy name in a more serious way, who never actually misses his vow of chanting holy names. Then Uttama, at a mere sight of one, others automatically start to chant Harinam. So when you see this person, because of the purity of his character, because of the advancement of his spiritual life, his devotion, when somebody else sees such a person, that person actually gets inspiration to chant the holy name. So that is the definition of Uttama. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is the spiritual master, who is actually the father of the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, uh, has explained this gradation of Vaishnavas in a much more different, in a little, slightly different way. So he explained it in a way that a Kanistha person is someone who is more attracted towards the rituals of bhakti or rituals of devotional life, who is somebody who is uh, more eager to perform rituals rather than understanding the uh, rather than understanding the uh, uh, context or the uh, main objective of those rituals. So one who understands those rituals at a more intellectual level, who is not only interested in performing those rituals but also understands the objective of those rituals. Objective of those rituals is actually to bring someone closer to Krishna. So one who looks rituals in a more intellectual way, such a person is known as Madhyama. Hmm. So why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave that kind of a definition? Because he wanted to attract those people who were more intelligent people in his time. So he gave that kind of a discussion, and to such people, when he would read that kind of a description, they would understand, because many of those people who were educated, who were more intellectually oriented, whenever they would see other Vaishnavas only doing rituals, going to the holy places, doing puja, doing arati, observing some fast, they would look down upon them, and they would think that okay, these people are simply doing these rituals and they don't really understand what is, or they are simply more ritualistic in nature. But to give these people uh, a little more appreciation towards these rituals, uh, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned that those people who are able to look intellectually also at these rituals are actually at the madhyama level, they are at a more advanced level. And in order to encourage these people to go higher, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned that there is another level which is known as Uttam level, and you can actually go at a higher level also. So you would see that in the scriptures, at different places, these themes of Kanishtha, Madhyama, and Uttama has been explained in a little different way by different acharyas and different teachers. So now this faith is not something which is remains stagnant when we come at our devotional life. And this faith actually, when it intensifies, when it grows further, this faith can actually take us closer to Krishna, and at the level of prema, or at the level of full devotional love towards the Supreme Lord. And where does this theme is mentioned? This is mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Here Srila Rup Goswami writes, अतः श्री कृष्ण नामादि न भवेद ग्राह्यम इंद्रिय सेवन मुखो हि जिह्वादौ स्वयं एव स्फुरत्यदा. Here Srila Rup Goswami says, अतः श्री कृष्ण नामादि न भवेद ग्राह्यम इंद्रिय. Here Srila Rup Goswami is mentioning that understanding the glories of Lord Krishna's name or other aspects of devotional service. So he's saying, Atah Shri Krishna Nam Adi. Adi means etc. So understanding the glories of Sri Krishna's name and other mystical aspects of devotional service, one cannot understand them by indriya. Simply by blunt material senses, one cannot understand Krishna's holy name or about Lord Krishna or about Lord Krishna's activities, pastimes, and other aspects. One cannot simply understand in clear detail or in lot of detail by their material senses. But if sevan mukho hi jivvado swayam eva spuratyada. But if one engages in the devotional service, but one if he engages in the seva of the Supreme Lord, which starts with jivva, which starts with jivva. Jivva means tongue. Huh? So what do we do with tongue? We speak with the tongue, and we also uh, take Krishna Prasad, or also we taste the food with the tongue. Huh? So one who is sevan mukha, who is inclined to serve by his jivva, by his tongue, swayam eva sfuratyada. Then automatically swayam eva sfuratyada. Sfuratya means very fast. Huh? Then, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. So many times people are very much eager, very much keen to see the Lord. Huh? They want to go and have darshan of the Lord. So here the secret of how one can have darshan of the Lord face to face. Here it is mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, that by serving the Lord, by, and how do we do that service? By do that service by jivva, by chanting the holy names, by speaking Krishna Katha, by eating Krishna Prasad, by glorifying the devotees of the Lord. What can happen is Sfuratyada, very fast, one can, the Lord Himself reveals to such a person, not by grahyam indriya, na bhaved grahyam indriya. By our own material senses, we cannot understand Krishna. Like many people are very fond of going and having darshan of the Lord. So that is also good. That is also a devotional activity. But here we can understand, we can we can have darshan of the Lord if we are more engaged in the seva of the Lord, and that starts with the jivva. Okay. So you can understand from this first theme in the purport of Srila Prabhupada that gradation of various type of Vaishnavas happen according to the faith they have. The faith brings them to the devotional service, and the same faith becomes the basis of advancing in their devotional service. And that's where we defined what is faith, and we understood that as faith increases, similarly the devotee from Kanishta level advances to Madhyama level to the Uttama level. So the main important theme was faith, Shraddha. Now we understand a little more detail about how that Shraddha advances, or sorry, how that Shraddha is seen in somebody who is at the third level, who is at the bottom level of devotional life, and that is Kanishtha Adhikari. So in this particular slide, I have highlighted some 8-9 bullets, all drawing from Srila Prabhupada's purport, that what is Kanishtha Adhikari. So on the lowest platform of bhakti, that is we have discussed so far, has pliable faith, Komal Shraddha. Komal Shraddha means the faith is soft. If somebody goes to such person of a different faith, of a different Shraddha, maybe for example an atheist, and put across an argument very strongly, very logically to such a person who is having a Komal Shraddha, who is at a Kanishta level, that Kanishta Adhikari person actually may get deviated from the path, from the devotional service. So such a person, a Kanishta Adhikari, has a pliable faith, Komal Shraddha. Such a person has received Harinam initiation from the Guru. Harinam initiation from the Guru means he already have received this instruction from the Guru that we should perform devotional service by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So he's already doing some chanting, he's already taking some name of the Lord. So in that way, he's already connected with the Lord. Or he also appreciates that Krishna's holy name is the topmost shelter one can take. He also appreciates that fact. He also accepts that fact. And he also understands that Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna's holy name are non-different. So that is how he has understood from his spiritual master these instructions. But at the same time, such a person cannot understand that Madhyama level devotee is superior. And he also doesn't understand that one should aspire to move towards Madhyama level. So what is the main problem with this particular devotee, or where his progress is at the moment stuck? His progress is stuck at the level uh, that he can appreciate the Lord, he can appreciate the activities and the concepts associated with the Lord, but he is not much appreciable of the fact that the Lord has other devotees also, and how he should relate with the other devotees of the Lord. That appreciation is not very much there in the uh, understanding of the Kanishta Adhikari level, in the Shraddha of the Kanishta Adhikari level. So he doesn't see Madhyama level devotee as his superior, as someone who can, from whom he can take guidance, from whom he can take instructions, and who can approach uh, as someone to whom he can approach for taking uh, maybe some guidance or some uh, teachings, or some advice and so on, or getting his own internal weaknesses, internal problems, anarthas, those kind of problems, he can get it resolved by approaching to someone who is at a madhyama level. So he's not very good at relating with devotees of a higher level. Uh, Sometimes he might, out of his pride, out of his immaturity, can consider himself as a guru, uh, and by doing so, he can have a fall down. He can actually deviate from his devotional service. So, to such a devotee, Rupa Goswami says that one should respect such a devotee in one's mind. Why? Because he is already connected with the Lord. So, at least he deserves this kind of respect. So, more you can see where we discussed about in the previous slide, Komal Shraddha. So, from where does it come? This comes from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving this instruction to Sanatan Goswami. So what are different type of devotees? So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Yahara Komala Shraddha Sei Kanishtha Jana Krame Krame Teno Bhakta Haibe Uttama. So here Yahar Komal Shraddha Sei Kanishtha Jana. So one whose faith is soft and pliable is called a neophyte. Huh? Krame Krame Teno, but by gradually following the process, krame teno, by slowly and gradually, by following the krama means the order, how one should follow the instructions. Krame teno bhakta haibe uttama, he will rise to the platform of a first class devotee. So he's something like who is he's new to the devotional service, but if he continues to follow the krama, if he follows the process, he will gradually rise to the platform of a uttama, a first class devotee. So another definition we can see where Kanishta Bhakta or Kanishta Adhikari has been mentioned, and we have discussed this briefly also in our classes in Ishopanishad. And this verse comes from Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, second chapter, 47th verse, it is mentioned, Archayam eva haraye pujam ya shraddhaye hate na tat bhakteshu channeshu sa bhakta prakratah smritah. So here it is mentioned, Archayam eva haraye. Archa means worship. Haraye is actually another name of Lord Krishna, Hari. Archayam eva haraye. So he faithfully worships the deity in the temple. Pujam yah Shraddha ye hate. Huh? And faithfully worships deity in the temple. Pujam yah Shraddha ya hite. So faithfully means Shraddha, with faith. Puja means worship. Archa also means worship. Eva Hariye. Hariye here means the deity, or the representation of the Supreme Lord. Na tad bhakteshu chanyeshu, but cannot behave properly with the devotees and others. Na tad bhakteshu cha anyeshu, with others and the devotees. He cannot behave properly. Sa bhakta prakratah smrataha. Such a devotee is called as a prakrita bhakta. Prakrita word comes from prakriti. Prakriti is material. So this devotee actually doesn't have a good vision towards the devotees. When he sees the devotees, he has a material vision. Material vision means he would grade devotees based on their material qualifications, or he would rate the devotees based upon how much a devotee actually goes for pilgrimage, how much a devotee chants the number of holy names, and so on, rather than their own realization, their own appreciation of their devotional life. He would rate these other devotees based on the material platform. So he looks at the devotees only at a material platform. Such a devotee is known as Kanishta Adhikari. So, on a lighter vein, such a devotee is known as a neophyte. Neophyte. uh, Neophyte. So, neophyte would mean who is new and who fights. Fights means who actually unknowingly ends up with arguments with other devotees. So that is in a on a lighter vein, you can understand who is a neophyte devotee or who is a devotee at a bottom level. Now, coming to the understanding of who is a Madhyamadhikari, again there are several bullets again summarized from Srila Prabhupada's purport. So such a devotee has received spiritual initiation from a guru. So he has taken diksha from the guru. Accepting diksha from the guru means he has accepted or he has taken a vow to follow the instructions of the guru, to follow the teachings of the guru, how the guru would like to make me advance in the devotional process. So he has accepted that spiritual initiation. And because the guru has given these instructions to such a person, he is fully engaged by the guru in Krishna's loving service. And he sincerely endeavors to perform bhajan. Sincerely endeavors to perform bhajan means uh, although he doesn't understand the concepts of devotional service in very great detail, but he is very, very much faithful. He is very much Shraddhavan in accepting and performing those activities. Uh, like we also saw that in the case of Kanishthandikari, he is also very sincerely doing the activities of devotional life. Candidate for further advancement in bhakti, he is actually a good candidate to further advance because he is not going to deviate away. In a Kanishtha level, that kind of a devotee, because his Shraddha is Komal, if he hears some counter argument, some other person with a strong faith in their philosophy, he would actually deviate. But such a person will not deviate. Such a person is a candidate for further advancement in bhakti. And where is the weakness in this person? He is not strong in shastric knowledge, but has firm faith in chanting. He doesn't have a very strong understanding of the Shastra. Although he has a lot of faith in the Shastra, but when asked for a debate, when asked for a discussion, he doesn't have a very strong understanding of the Shastric knowledge. He is not yet matured in the understanding of Shastric knowledge. So he would understand some aspect of Shastra, but the detailed understanding of Shastric knowledge, the nitty gritty details, so he has not really matured in that level. Merciful to Kanishta Bhaktas, understands they are ignorant in Sambandha Tattva. So he is merciful to Kanishta Bhaktas. He understands that some devotee, he is a neophyte stage, he has only come recently to devotional life. So he understands that who is a Kanishta Bhakta and also is merciful. He actually is ready to help such a person. Endeavors to turn living entities towards Krishna. So he is also serious about spreading the message of the scriptures. He's also interested in spreading the message of holy names to others. So he endeavors to turn other living entities towards Krishna by doing preaching, by sharing the message, and so on. Does not see all jivas with an equal vision like the Uttama Bhakta. So this particular devotee differentiate between a Kanishta Bhakta, a atheist, or a person who is actually more advanced. So he doesn't see all jivas with an equal vision. Like the Uttama Bhakta. Uttama Bhakta also sees somebody who is very envious towards the Lord also as a potential candidate to become the devotee of the Lord. So Uttama Bhakta has a very broad vision. He is very broad minded, and he sees everyone with an equal vision. But this Madhyamadhikari actually differentiate at the level of the devotees. At the Madhyama who falsely imitates Uttama devotee will fall down. So a Madhyamadhikari should not un uh, uh, prematurely start to imitate a devotee who is very advanced level, Uttama devotee. Now, this particular theme of Madhyamadhikari we also discussed in our Ishopanishad class, but good to repeat it again just to further strengthen the concept of Madhyamadhikari. So, here in Chaitanya Charitamrit, it is mentioned शास्त्र युक्ति नहीं जाने दृढ़ श्रद्धावान मध्यम अधिकारी से महाभाग्यवान. Shastra Yukti nahi jane, one who is not very expert in argument and logic of revealed scriptures. So you will have some idea of scriptures, but not very expert. You will not, he cannot explain scriptures in 3 different ways or 5 different ways. He will have some understanding of the scriptures. But Drida Shraddhavan, but his Shraddha is firm. One cannot deviate such a person from his devotional service. He is Drida Shraddhavan. Madhyama Adhikari say, such a person is Madhyama Adhikari, is a second class devotee. Mahabhagyavan. He also must be considered as most fortunate. Most fortunate because he has a very good chance to become an Uttama Adhikari. Because he will not fall down, he will remain Drada on his Shraddha, and when he will remain Drada on his Shraddha, he will actually gradually progress towards Uttama platform. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, and this verse says, Ishware tad adhineshu balisesu dvishastu cha prema maitri kripopeksha ya karoti samadhyama. Like we have a definition of Kanishtadhikari in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the same chapter, you will see the definition of Madhyamadhikari. So, first 2 lines talks about what is the relationship of the Madhyamadhikari with different categories. So with and these 2 lines, first 2 lines identified those different categories. Ishware tad adhineshu baliseshu dvishastu cha. Ishware means Supreme Lord. Tad adhineshu means who are surrendered to the Supreme Lord, that is devotees of the Lord. Baliseshu, the word Bal comes from children who are young, ignorant people who are Bal, who are like children in devotional life. Dvishatsucha. Dvishatsu means envious. So these are 4 categories mentioned in first 2 lines, and then respectively how this Madhyamadhikari relates with these 4 categories. So prema. Prema means love. He offers love to the Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. Then Maitri to the devotees of the Lord who are already devotees of the Lord. He would extend Maitri. Kripa. Kripa to Baliseshu. Baliseshu means ignorant people who are very new to devotional life. He would offer his mercy to ignorant people. And Upeksha. Upeksha means avoid. Whom he avoid? Who are Dvishatsu. Dvishatsu means who are envious of the Lord, who blaspheme the Lord, who blaspheme the devotees. So, like that, this verse has been arranged. First 4 categories are there, and then the behavior towards these each of these categories respectively, how the Madhyamadhikari would behave. Yah karoti sa madhyama. Such a devotee is called Madhyama Adhikari. So like that, a definition of Madhyama Adhikari is also mentioned. So that is all for the class today. So we have discussed about the role of faith in gradation of Vaishnavas, and we further extended that discussion, how we understood how the faith of Kanishta Adhikari can be defined, and how to identify the faith of the Madhyama Adhikari in devotional life in the Vaishnava circle, how we can identify those. So with that, we will conclude the class today. All glories to Sri Updeshamrita, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Rup Goswami. Questions and takeaways we can now discuss. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
As usual, a ultra wonderful class, and really making so much clear about these three levels. They are so much intermixing into each other. If you are Kanishta, you have tendencies for Madhyam. If you are Madhyam, you have some tendencies for Uttama also. But base of all three remains only one.
Correct.
248, that Shraddhavanam, Labdhe Jnanam. Shraddha is the common in all three. And here, Shraddha is Guru Vakyam Satyam. We have to make 100% clear in our mind that we have to do Guru Vakyam Satyam.
Yeah.
Till we don't follow Guru's Vakyam without any modifying, without any addition or subtraction, without any tilt to the right or the left, without taking it to the higher story or the lower story, keeping into the supreme place, keeping in the Uttam place, keeping in the heart, we cannot achieve any of these. So Shraddha Prati Guru and Guru Vakyam Satyam, unconditional to follow, we can definitely progress from Kanishta to Madhyam to Uttam.
Correct.
And our aim should be Uttam only.
Yes, yes. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport actually has mentioned that one should at least strive for Madhyam level. Striving for Uttama level or coming at an Uttama level is somewhat rare. That's a very advanced stage, and unless and until there is a mercy of the Lord on such people, generally people are not really able to raise themselves to that Uttama level, or as I said, it is mercy of the Lord that brings them to the Uttama level. But for sure, as Prabhupada has mentioned, one should certainly strive to come at least to the Madhyama level.
Guru Kripa is the most important. Guru Kripa. Until unless Guru like you and then superiors, we cannot reach to any step and any level. But it's
you can say Guru Kripa of somebody of the level of Srila Prabhupada or someone like that. That is the best way to explain. Yeah.
जी, but माध्यम तो देखो जी, आप नहीं होते तो श्रील प्रभुपाद का रास्ता कौन दिखाता?
Yeah,
who
that
would
is
have shown me? Who would have introduced me to him?
Okay.
So,
anyway,
thank you very much.
Yes.
Excellent, and please keep showering your mercy on us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would also like to welcome Sharad ji from Netherlands, who has joined very kindly in our session. So welcome, Sharad ji. I can see his name on the screen.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so
much.
Hare
Krishna Prabhu ji. Sharad Viveji ji. He's my colleague from Shell, based in Netherlands, and have kindly decided to join our sessions. So welcome, sir.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I hope you found the class today somewhat you can relate to it, although you are coming in a little bit in between. We are already 13 classes in this particular book, but I hope you can make to some extent. Do you have any questions or do you have any comments to make?
No, I think I could catch quite a bit of it. So
Mhm.
not that it was very difficult, but certainly there will be some questions in coming days. So I will
Sure,
contact you.
sure. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you, bro.
Thank you. Thank you, Ji.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, remarks?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Ishwar Prabhu.
One thing you have already clarified, because when Kartar was talking about Guru, of course we know that Guru has a very distinct place, and I think almost a necessity for progress in spiritual life. There is no doubt about it. But there are instances, and from your own quoting, you just now said that if there is a mercy of the Lord, then perhaps he takes the responsibility of a guru as well as the real giver. Like Bhakt Prahlada was there. There was no one to teach him. Who could teach him? His father was such a bad person. Or you can say the similar things are there also, even in animals also. Certain animals were also elevated. So there are exceptions, but yes, majority, we need a guru, and he has a very important distinct place. So that is one which is already clarified. Number two, even in my personal experience, say when we are chanting or doing some rituals are there, and you accept that rituals are important. But sometimes we miss certain rituals because of the paucity of time or some other exigencies in life. And a kind of feeling of guilt comes. Look, I have not been able to do this today, or a fear kind of thing that have I really done some sin by not adhering to the routine? So how to correct himself, or how to answer himself in such a situation? That feeling sometimes is not very welcome. You feel little irritated that I have not done this particular thing. I should have been better at that.
Yeah.
That's the
So
thing.
as we have discussed in our, I think in the some of the classes also, like we also in devotional life have rules and regulations to follow.
Right.
For example, chanting of the holy names, eating Krishna Prasad, and associating with the devotees, not taking any non-vegetarian food, not eating onion and garlic. So there are many do's and don'ts. You would
Yes,
already now appreciated so far,
right.
right?
Yes.
So the rules are really important, and they are they help us to advance in devotional life. But for some reason, if we are not able to follow rules, or we deviate from following our rules, or we deviate from our spiritual life, then the best uh, the best atonement is actually to once again start following those rules and regulations with the same, with more vigor, and with more conviction.
Okay. That's good.
So like we also mentioned, we also discussed in our previous classes, what is the best atonement. So in the quiz also we discussed what is the best atonement. Best
Yes,
atonement is mainly to come to Krishna consciousness. So
yes.
people who are not in Krishna consciousness, when they come to Krishna consciousness, they are already doing that activity. But people who are already in Krishna consciousness, and for some reason their standard has come down because of whatever reason, they need to quickly identify that, and once again course correct it, and start following the same rules which they were not following in the past, or which they had temporarily stopped following that with a lot of conviction, to once again start following it with a more renewed conviction. And
Okay.
I will give you one tip here. the best way to the best way to revive our own conviction to follow these rules is association. It's
Okay.
satsanga. So like it is mentioned in this particular verse also, that if we start taking association of Uttama Adhikari, devotees who are much more advanced than us, who are much more enthusiastic towards devotional life, towards spiritual life, if we start taking association of such people, our own conviction and our own enthusiasm will go up.
Okay.
So Krishna consciousness is the best atonement.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Any other questions or remarks? Okay. With that,
Thank you,
I
Prabhu.
think
Hare
we
Krishna,
will
Prabhuji.
conclude the session. Thank you very much for joining us. We will continue with this discussion in our next class. Thanks a lot.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.